Okay, Mayor, we're good for the next meeting. We're ready.
Okay, we're ready to go, so I will call this regularly scheduled meeting of the Lawton City Council to order. Please stand for the invocation by 25-year police veteran Louis Poha Pacheco and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Council, all the council members. We'll be praying in my Comanche language today. Just to give you a little absurd about my Comanche language was used in World War I, used in World War II. When you're asked to pray, I pray in my Comanche Nation language, and I'll continue when I'm called upon. Shall we pray? Ha tsame kona na mayumu kona na mayok tomova. Aweno tsara siku weno ta a papuni yakure namana yukotaitsi unik. Marave ye kunikara anan sitai katsame tata tuni patswan. Not me Jesus, nami sitai. I kasokovi kanadi anasuka pikuweno. No nada mano weno nasa samani nasaka kitu yuyu epitui kavoni not me Jesus. Tanan sitai katata tuni patswan. Winix dudix navinai kimada kena wini wayuna. Uri sutai na itsako me what sokova yuyumoko me. Taiva tekwa pasove taisuai ke ha what anatomy Jesus. Father, we thank you for another day here upon Mother Earth. We ask that you continue to bless this council, Father, whatever business they have to do today, dear Father. We thank you for another day here upon Mother Earth. Father, I ask that you watch over each and every one of us, that you continue to bless us through these troubling times. Father, I thank you for the sun that shines upon our face each day. I thank you for the clouds that bring the rain that fills our rivers, our lakes, and our ponds so that we all may have life. Father, be with our men in blue, wherever they may be, Father, that you would watch over them. Be with our soldiers, wherever they may be, that you would watch over them and their families, Father. Father, we ask all these things that you continue to be with the first responders and be with us all through these troubling times. In your Son, Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, thank you. Thank you, officer. Appreciate that. And now it's time for the New Year's address. Members of the City Council, city staff, and my fellow Lawtonians, thank you for your service, dedication, and your hearts for our community. I'm honored to speak to you as mayor of the city of Lawton as we begin a new year. We stand in a nation that is divided. We all share the concern. We all feel it. Call it party, call it current events, call it cause and effect or symptom. In the end, division is the theme of the day. Our trust for our institutions, our government, and for each other is at an all-time low. And then there's Lawton. I've heard it called special. I call it some kind of wonderful. We're a community that does not believe in strangers. We're a people who enjoy a sense of place, a sense of belonging that is fleeting in this modern day. We've something exceptional in this place, and your elected officials are proud to be a part of it. As those Lawtonians that came in 1901, we are dedicated to building a future for our children and our grandchildren. To build a future, we must start with a firm foundation. And you, the citizens, showed your support by voting overwhelmingly for the Propel CIP. We are, without a doubt, a community of choice for young families, and our calling is to build a place that will stand the test of time. That is still the mission of this elected administration and the goal of our work together. We will build a place in Lawton that breaks the divisive national pattern. We will build a place our children will be proud to call home. We're moving quickly and with success. So many things have happened in the last year and even in recent days. Progress continues at the Vista, and the first construction project will be completed in the coming weeks, and it will be near capacity in the first quarter of this year, adding jobs with each lease. Already, a second space is being planned for SEMA AI. The FISTA jobs are $100,000 a year plus jobs and welcome to our local economy. The state of Oklahoma's $20 million investment in the FISTA and the projects that are in the new Defense Authorization Act will pay off in big high-tech jobs and increase opportunities for our children to have job opportunities here in Lawton Fort Sill. As Project Blue Braveheart continues forward, making significant progress, our LEDC and community leaders continue to work together diligently to cross the finish line. Certainly, this will be transformational for our community. We must develop a plan to market our transformational community for job opportunities to recruit qualified applicants now. I've asked LEDC, FISTA, and the Chamber, Cameron University, and Great Plains Technology Center to form a working group to include Fort Sill, Goodyear, and other industries to plan the pathway forward for recruiting workers to Lawton Fort Sill to fill the need. This is in addition to the training available to our residents who wish to take advantage of the new opportunities here. We look forward to the working group's findings. Fort Sill continues to be our lifeblood. We continue to stand in support of our soldiers and their families. We continue to build on the relationships between the two communities so that we are indeed one community. And we look forward to the growth of Fort Sill with the opening of the Counter Small UAS University, where all branches of the military, including Homeland Security, will train here at Lawton Fort Sill. 15,000 room nights a year associated current projections. And the expansion of the 75th Field Artillery. The 75th Field Artillery has, excuse me, over half of all the field artillery firepower in the United States. And while deployed around the world, it is headquartered at Fort Sill with 2,600 soldiers and expects to expand in 24 through 26 by 25%, which will bring a projected population increase to the area of 2,100 plus. And we welcome the soldiers of the Ukrainian military who will be training on the Patriot missile here at Fort Sill. As a community, we are proud to support this effort for freedom. Lawton Fort Sill continues to lead the state in STEM efforts to prepare our children for local opportunities and STEM jobs that will lead job growth globally. We will continue to work with NIMSI, the National Math and Science Initiative, to up our game and lead in STEM education for our children. Through the new Youth Sports Authority, whose goal is to have the premier youth sports in the state, the Parks Master Plan, the Aquatics Master Plan, and our streets and sidewalks, we continue to build toward that community of choice. While the nation continues to see rising crime rates, locally we are seeing decreases in key areas of violent crime. We will receive a report during the council meeting on the drugs that have been taken off the street by our LPD. These are but a few of the many things that are changing for the better around us in Lawton Fort Sill. Let's go back to the recent drought, 2014-2015. We all understood the importance of Lake Waurika as our water supply became limited. We were even talking about cutting off outside watering. While the dam was completed and the gates closed in 1977, our visionary leaders of the time started floating the idea of a lake, no pun intended, in 1940, 37 years from vision to completion. We as a community have been very fortunate to have leaders that could see past the horizon and took action so that we enjoy the fruits even today. Now, seeing past the horizon is not just words. You see, the population at the time they started talking about a lake on the Beaver Creek watershed, the population of Lawton was only 18,000. So it's clear they had vision beyond the horizon. We should be thankful that the ever-present naysayers did not win out. Instead, that solid leadership and vision with action prevailed. This is why we are standing at the charter-authorized Strategic Planning Committee. We must begin to look further into the future beyond the horizon. This committee will be about vision and action. In the coming weeks, you'll begin to see more about this vital component of propelling us to the future. Expect citizen engagement through online polling as we work to get to the citizens' goals for the city. This strategic plan will drive decisions for years to come. Much has changed in the last few years, but our story has not. Amid a rapidly changing world, our community grows even more strong. The people you walk by in Elmer Thomas Park, that you see shopping or attend church with, are yours. They're your neighbors. This place is yours. It is ours. We are building it into something special. We are making it a community of choice. The challenge now is to build it into something lasting. We have an amazing city staff working day in and day out to help accomplish this goal, but communities aren't built strictly by the government. Today I'm calling on you, the citizens, to avoid the issues that are dividing the nation and come together to work for the future of our community in our true nonpartisan fashion for our children and our grandchildren. Today, as we work together, we resolve to work even more diligently to ensure success. Success is our only option. Our plans for the future will be data-driven. We will be working on processes to create a more development-friendly culture to ensure that we increase home building in the city limits. Efficiency must be at the top of our list and will be a funding source to help us face the challenges that have arisen with the current inflation trend. Efficiency must be front and center. Together, we will build a forward-looking city that does not leave the future to chance. We will be purposeful in creating a safe city that values the public safety personnel and public servants who work on our behalf every day. Indeed, there will be challenges, and we will face those challenges just as those first Lawtonians did in 1901. We will face our challenges head on. Together, we will build a city worth passing on to our children and our grandchildren. Thank you for listening. I'm blessed to be your mayor, and our council members consider it a blessing to serve you here as we chart the course for the future. The time is now for Lawton Fort Sill. We all wish you a prosperous and happy new year. May God continue to bless Lawton Fort Sill. Thank you. And with that, we move on to the Oklahoma Municipal League 25-year employee recognition. Michael.
Mayor, I need to call roll.
Oh, I forgot that.
Yep.
Let's do that.
Okay. Hampton. Here. Fortenbaugh. Here. Johnson. Warren. Present. Hankins. Here. Harris. Still here. Chapman. Gill. Here.
Thank you. Michael.
So, Mayor and Council, I'm happy to announce that the citizenry numbers of the City of Lawton have grown by 1 today. I'm happy and proud to announce that my son recently graduated from college and has accepted a position as a nurse here in Lawton, Oklahoma. So I'm proud as a father, and Lawton grew by 1. But we're here to talk about other folks today, so let's talk about the people that have put 25 years into government service. So the first person I'd like to recognize and come on up would be Mr. James Breedlove. And James and the recipients of these awards, Craig Ackert from Human Resources has your pen. But I want to present this to you so we can get some photos. Sir, thank you for 25 years worth of service to the city of Lawton and everything that you do for our citizens every day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You got a picture? Because he's about to break my hand. Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
We get the privilege and honor of listening to this gentleman from time to time, Mayor, and you know, to have someone be able to speak their language in front of the council, I think is very, very much a privilege for us to be able to hear somebody do that. This gentleman has spent 25 years protecting the citizens of Lawton and our police department. So, Mr. Louis Poha Pacheco, would you please come up to the front, please? I got it right, didn't I?
Yes,
Okay.
you got it right. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
13 days to return.
Our next honoree for 25 years for public service goes to Mr. Greg Ellis. Greg, where are you at? Greg, again, thank you so much for 25 years for the service to the city and to the citizens of Lawton. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
And our last recipient, we do have more, but these are the folks that were able to attend today. Our last recipient is Sandra Malacott. So Sandra, thank you so much. Again, 25 years. You know, you got to give it to somebody who sticks 25 years of doing something in service. Public service is a great effort, and it takes a lot of dedication. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm very grateful to be here.
Yes, sorry, Mayor. Thank you for reminding me. Mayor, I'd like to take just one more minute and introduce Roy Roderick. Roy Roderick has somebody he'd like to introduce you to, and I think it's a great addition to our team. So, Roy, come on up and do the introductions, please.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, I'd like to introduce Doctor of Veterinary Medicine Gene Parker. He's been our contract vet for the last 10 months. We've established a very good working relationship. Dr. Parker has just come on full-time, so he will be on staff and available 5 days a week for Lawton Animal Welfare.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to say I'm excited at the opportunity. I've been working out there for about 10 months and pretty impressed about the service the community gets out of that and hoping to be maybe a resource in other areas for the city of Lawton. Thank you.
With that, we move on to reports by the mayor and city council. We'll start with Ward 1.
You know, I'll be brief, but I just wanted to remind everybody, and I may have said this before, but I was in the Oklahoma City mayor's office at one time, and there are pictures of children all over the walls there. And I think as we start this new year, we need to remember it's not about us in the present time, but what happens to our future citizens. So when we make decisions, we need to remember it's not about us.
Yes, I wish everybody a happy new year. And on the other end of the scale, I want to say that the new arch, or the arch has been rebuilt at the cemetery, and it looks awesome. So when they're leaving town, they have a beautiful place to pass under and be remembered. So wonderful job that the contractor did on that.
Thank you. Ms. Chapman.
Two quick things.
This Friday night at McMahon Auditorium, the Great Plains Museum is offering their premiere of Washington's Armor, which is a movie that was made, quite a bit of it was made at the museum. And the second thing is the Meadowbrook Hines Neighborhood Watch is Monday, January the 23rd at 7 o'clock, and Mayor Booker is the guest speaker, and yes, it's on your calendar.
Mr. Gill. Okay, and Mr. Hampton.
Yeah, I just want to quickly say Happy New Year to all the citizens of Lawton, and my appreciation for your confidence in this mayor and council. Thank you.
And Mr. Fortenbaugh.
I want to encourage everybody to go to the farmer's market on Saturday morning. I went there the other day. They have stuff like fresh eggs, but they sell out really quick. So if you're going to go and you want the good stuff, you got to get there early.
And Mr. Warren.
Council and Mayor, I really only had one thing today. I had a citizen call me, and I don't even, it's not important, the actual issue that they called about, but the comment was, why can't we just stay the way we were? Why do we have to change? And I think it's important for everyone to understand that, and I don't know who said it, but the true reality of cities is that if your city isn't growing, it's dying. We are not in the business, or we are not tasked with keeping things the same as they were, because everything changes on a daily basis. There are industries, there are businesses that leave and are just no longer relevant to society. And we must always be diligent in trying to find new industry and new businesses to bring into the city to not only keep the status quo, but to expand it.
Thank you. And Colonel P.
Mr. Mayor, just wanted to tell you how much from a personal note, how much I appreciate the last couple months coming on board, being part of this wonderful team, and how much Fort Sill continues to appreciate the relationship we have with Lawton, and as we look forward to the next new year and all the collaborative work we'll do together. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Colonel. All right. And with that, we'll move on to audience participation. Anyone having an item of business to present to the City Council that does not appear on the agenda, please come forward at this time. Yes, sir, and we'll need your name and address, please.
Mayor Booker, council members, thanks for this opportunity. Robert Zabilski, 4813 Northwest Sherrill Boulevard in Lawton, Ward 3. Last July 15th, we had a water main break right in front of my house. After I notified the water department, to their credit, they came that afternoon and fixed it. 6 months later, though, what hasn't occurred was the replacement of the torn up sidewalk. Now, ironically, a year earlier, 50 feet just east of that current break, we had another break right in front of my driveway. Well, it waited and waited and waited, so I eventually went ahead and had it replaced myself, and I did get reimbursed. But after 6 months, the sidewalk, it's about 20 to 25 feet in length, right in front of my house. It's still all mud. And I wonder, number one, am I on any kind of a priority list? Is there a priority list? Is there any list whatsoever? Yes, 4813 Northwest Sherrill Boulevard, Cheryl, almost right in the back of the Lowe's there.
Okay, so that's Ward
3. Ward 3.
Ward 3. So we can't talk back and forth by law because it's not on the agenda. But what we can do is get you with the city manager or one of his staff, and your council person is aware of this, and they will be working with you to get you an answer.
Well, I've already corresponded with Ms. Chapman, and the response I got was, well, they're busy and so on and so on and so on. What I did not get was a let me see what I can do, answer.
Why don't you write your phone number on a piece of paper and turn it in for me, and the staff will be getting with you, and I'll give you a call.
Sir, if you'll step right over here, Mr. Rusty Wiesenhunt is the Public Utilities Director. We will make sure we get you taken care of.
Okay, I sure appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to come forward during this time for audience participation? Please come forward. You can sit on the front row and wait. Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Corkill, Corkill, Ruben, R-U-B-E-N. What else, sir?
Your address.
1626 Northeast 31st.
Okay. What can we do for you?
Okay, sir, real fast. I know we only have 3 minutes. This is my first time for this. And I was just going to suggest to you, sir, I called your office today because I've seen in the paper this going back and forth on this transit thing for the buses. And today I learned that it doesn't have to be together, the maintenance part along with it. But everything up until today had been that they wanted everything together, more or less, the maintenance and the transient place. So if we can easier find a place when we have to, if we can divide it, doesn't have to be together. And I would suggest, I don't know, and I heard you say, sir, about the farmers market. Is that private or does it belong to the city, sir? Oh.
Oh, sorry. Did you hear what I said?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I didn't know that. So anyway, I was going to suggest, you know, that if it was city-owned, it would combine that with what's going to happen to the police building. Both things would suffice for what you guys wanted for transit office and maintenance. But other than that, now there's hall building and bricks there for sale, sir, and that's a big are. Hall construction?
Hall building products, yes.
Yes, sir. They're for sale. I don't know how much they want, but there's a lot of space there and other than that, sir, I was just going to suggest that you get, like I said, this is my first time to attend here, and I see well-represented areas in town, in Fort Sill, and I think because of the proximity and we work with, and they help us, and we help them, the Indian tribes should have a representative here too. Because so many things that we need and they need can be done working together. And the other thing, sir, just in parting, I realize short time, is that we should concentrate, I think, sir, in opening up Cash Road all the way east side. I live in the east side, and all we have is Rogers Lane, which you have to go to a certain point and then turn and hit Cash Road and turn left again to the east side. And it's growing fast and would do much more for this city to grow if we could get that Cash Road while we have good relations with the Indians right now.
All right, and thank you for coming today. We do have a 3-minute time limit, and so we thank you for coming today, okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Yes, sir. Please give us your name and address.
Yes, sir. My name is Nicholas Travis. I reside at 120 Northwest 44th Street off of Gore. You guys caught my attention today. This is my third time being at a city council meeting.
You step a little closer
yes,
to the
sir.
mic.
You guys have caught my attention today being at a city council meeting. You guys have talked about children. I'm very sincere about that. Over the holidays, myself and my 6-year-old son, we had passed out plates over Thanksgiving to the homeless, and then I spent $1,000 of my personal money and passed out toys to the community. What I noticed was, I can't remember the exact streets, but like Southwest, like Jesse Davenport area, it's kids in those areas, and those areas are very underserved. It looks very desolate out there. It looks like kids don't even want to be out there because of the surroundings. So my question to you guys is, what is it that the city is doing, or any collaborations with the school district or somebody to where we can enhance those? I come from California. I have a lot of ideas that I'm suggesting, like community houses. There's a lot of vacant properties and stuff in those school zones. We can make community properties out of those where kids can have a safe haven. If they can't go home or they're walking home, they can have that safe haven to get homework done or whatever, to get a drink of water, wherever it may be. But let's give that kind of support to the kids in the community. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
So is Gary Brooks still here? Does he, Gary? Okay, maybe we can get your phone number and we can have our community housing development director, I think is called, get in touch with you and tell you how you can plug in, okay?
Sir, if you'll get with Ms. Charlotte Brown right here, she'll get you in contact with the proper people so we can start some dialogue.
Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward and speak during this time of audience participation? Seeing none,
We've got one.
Oh, okay.
One more quick thing. Thank you for not putting the sports center in Lake Elmer Thomas Park.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, we're going to move on. Conduct election of mayor pro tem. So, do we have a motion for a nomination? You want to talk about it? Yes.
I move that we elect Randy Warren. He's done such a good job this last year and has more longevity than anyone.
I like that longevity. We have a motion. We have a motion and a second. Discussion or debate? Please vote. Okay, why is this not working? I don't know. Okay, so motion carries 7-0. Do you have any idea why it's not working on the TV screen? Do me a favor and close that and reopen it.
I'm working on it right now with IT,
Oh, okay.
Mayor. I don't have an answer for you quite yet.
Okay, so the motion carries 7-0. Randy Warren continues as Mayor Pro Tem, and the Mayor Pro Tem didn't get anything extra, so I think we ought to give him a round of applause. Now, before we get into the consent agenda, I want to announce that we're striking item number 19 from the agenda. Then, the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted with one motion. Should discussion be desired on an item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda prior to action and considered separately. We're going to pull item number 4. That's the only request I have, Council. Do you have any others or a motion for approval?
Can I make one clarification before I make a motion?
Sure.
Item number 4, are we pulling the entire item?
No, sir. We're going to, as soon as we get into it, we're going to strike part of it.
Okay. I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the exception of pulling item number 4.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item number 4. Consider approving a resolution. Well, here's what we're going to do on that one. We're going to strike this portion that has to do with the HVAC for McMahon Auditorium. I'm going to read the entire agenda item, but we are striking the portion that has to do with air conditioning for McMahon Auditorium. Consider approving a resolution amending the City of Lawton FY 2022 and 2023 budget as amended by appropriating $67,460 to the 2019 Capital Improvement Fund for HVAC replacements at McMahon Auditorium and $261,800 to the Emergency Reserve Fund for the demolition of a burnt nursing home located at 1301 Northwest Andrews. Now, Joe Don, are you going to speak on the nursing home?
This item was, that portion of that budget amendment was approved at, I believe, one of the last 2 council meetings, and council members voted to take that out of the emergency fund. And this is just a budget amendment to ensure that that happens and we can get that demolition done.
So we did approve this. Do we have a motion for approval on the budget amendment? Michael, are you wanting to say something?
Yes, sir, Mayor. Just to slightly clarify what Joe Don had talked about, the council approved the use of emergency funds for the demolition and cleanup of the burnt nursing home located at 1301 Northwest Avenue. In order for us to expend those funds have to be transferred out of the emergency fund into the operating budget so we can actually spend those funds, and this is the mechanism that does that.
Okay, Mr. Gill has a question.
I'd like to know, did we get an estimate on that from anyone as far as the demolition costs that it would be?
Yes.
I believe that we did. Assistant Manager Dwayne Burke got that estimate, and I believe it was for the $261,000. Yes, you can answer that.
Are we going out for bids on that or what?
Yes, we will be. We did get an estimate from a company out of Oklahoma City that does asbestos removal because there is asbestos in the building.
Okay.
But we are also working on getting it out for bid so that we can properly do it.
Okay, once we get that package together.
Mr. Gill, this is a little more complicated, and the reason it's a little more complicated is because the building has burned and it contains asbestos. Normally, we would go into the building, remove the asbestos in a structure that's sound, which is very much less costly. In the instance, in this case, it is burnt. It is much more costly to go and abate that issue. Like Charlotte said, we did get an estimate. That's how we based our budget transfer upon, and we will be going out for bids. Our purchasing process requires that we go out for bids for things such as this, so we're going to make sure that we do that.
Well, I understand the process, and I appreciate that, but I just wanted to find out if we did in fact have an estimate, and we have, and that's great, and then we will go out for bids, so that's good. Thank you.
Any other questions? No motion? Turn on your mic for us, please.
I'll make the motion that we approve this resolution.
Have a motion for approval?
Mayor,
We need to
I think we have to
reword
make
that,
sure that we
probably.
include the language that striking the $64,460 and
Okay, well, we've already stricken that,
Okay,
so I
good.
don't think it's necessary in the motion. Do you, Attorney?
Yeah, I concur. We've already stricken the language.
Okay, we've already stricken it, so the motion stands that we're approving the budget amendment on $261,800 from the Emergency Reserve Fund. Do we have a second? And we have a second from Mr. Warren. Is there discussion or debate? Please vote. Motion carries 7-0. See if it's working. Takes us up to our unfinished business section, item number 13. Give me just a minute to get caught up. Item number 13, consider an ordinance pertaining to utilities, amending section 22-12115, division 22-12, article 22-1, chapter 22, Lawton City Code 2015, relating to water fees and charges by amending the amount required for a water service deposit to a set amount of $150 and by adding language to accept letters of credit for the commercial and industrial customers, providing for severability, and establishing an effective date. Joe Don.
Okay, well, what am I doing wrong?
I don't think this is working, is it? It's not working.
Yeah, well, here we go. We presented this item at the last, one of the meetings in December. The council had a few questions on it. The first thing I would like, and mostly it revolved around the deposit that we were asking to change to $150. I do want to point out that that $150 is currently in the fee schedule. But to answer your questions, one of the question was, what is the average utility deposit that is currently in place? And after I've gone through the utility deposits and looked at them pretty close, on average, our utility deposit that we have in place right now is between $100 and $125. We've got roughly about 1,500 accounts that do not have a deposit in place at all. The actual deposit would range anywhere from $5 to $12,000, depending on the business. That is when the account was started, the business, a lot of different things. You look like you have a question.
No,
Sir, okay.
I'm just going back and forth.
Okay. The second question that we had was, what is the minimum bill, the minimum utility bill? The minimum utility bill right now for a resident inside city limit residential customer is $90.46 about. The thing that varies is the pumping fee. This is the base rate. The inside incremental rate starts after the person has, for inside the city limit customers, starts after the usage of 2,000 gallons. So the $23 covers water usage from 0 to 2,000 gallons. Once you hit the 2,001 gallon mark, you start paying for your water at $4.65 per thousand. So for for 2,000 to 3,000 gallons, you'd pay an additional $4.65 per thousand. And the other question was the length of time that we have between the finalization of an account and the final bill. Well, roughly we're looking at about 2 months. And we're probably at the best we can be right now with our current technology. As we get more meters that are automated and we can automatically turn on and turn off accounts remotely, we could probably shorten this time frame a little bit. But to kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at, I've used a specific time frame. The bill is printed, let's say for the bill that's printed 5 days ago on January 15th. That's for usage that happened between December 14th and January 15th. Now that person has 25 days by ordinance to pay that bill, or 20 days to pay that bill. So on June 25th, or January 25th, 26th, the bill is past due. So then we give notification of past due. We can go out and cut off the bill, cut off the account for non-payment if they don't come in and pay. But there's usually about a 7-day period there that we give somebody to come in and pay their bill before we cut it off. Well, that's going to get us out to roughly February 7th. That's the time we'll read it again, is February 7th. That's when it would final out, and we would draw down deposits to try to satisfy a bill and mail it and collect anything that hasn't been satisfied. Based on our minimum bill, that customer, if it was read that the original bill was sent out on January 5th, once they get to cutoff and finalization, they owe us about $180. Is what they would owe the city of Lawton for that bill. If we look at our collections and what we've sent to collections and what the final account balances have been, on average, our final account balance that we've had is about $287. We've applied a deposit on average of about $113,000, which leaves about $174 sent to collections. So our deposit now at $150 will not cover the utility bill at the point of finalization and collection. And at collections, we're roughly 40 days in on the account, and every day that we go past that is a bigger chance that we don't collect the money. The closer we can be toward the date of the final read to collect the money, or to collect on the bill, the better chances we have of collection. Now, the things based on the conversations that we had during the last council meeting, the first area that I would recommend that we change is something that you brought out, Mayor, is that our ordinance reads all applicants for water service are required to make a cash deposit. Well, we're not talking just about water. Yes, water is a primary service, but we have sewer, garbage, and other services that go along with that. So it would be for the entire utility bill is what they would be putting the deposit up for, not just water. Again, we're recommending $150 at this time. And that would be consistent with what was approved with our fee schedule that was approved earlier, or at the beginning of this budget year. So this just marries the amount we're collecting up with our fee schedule. Now, one of the other reasons we are bringing this in is that is to add for commercial customers and industrial customers the ability to accept a letter of credit or a standby letter of credit issued by a local bank. The question was, one of the statements was during that time was that, well, the banks aren't going to want to keep issuing out this letter of credit if they're having to issue money to us because somebody hadn't collected a bill or somebody hadn't paid their bill. I would anticipate that with a customer that has got a standby letter of credit issued by a bank would only get one chance at that. Once that bill has gone back to the financial institution to pay on their standby letter of credit, then that would probably be, that's between the bank and that customer, but I would venture to guess the bank's not going to issue another standby letter of credit, in which then we would require a cash deposit, because that customer obviously does no longer have a good credit history with us, and we need some assurances that we're going to get paid. And that's what the deposit is for, is to assure that we collect everything that is owed to the city of Lawton when that customer moves or ceases to do business.
Okay, are you done?
I think so.
Okay, good.
In a
Now,
nutshell, yeah, I'm
so
done, Mayor.
I appreciate that explanation, and I appreciate the changes. However, the ordinance that is attached, it is not changed in. So while John's trying to figure out what the motion needs to be, let's go ahead and have questions, if you like, for Joe Don, if you have any.
It would appear to me that if a bank's going to issue a letter of credit, we're not going to have problems with that account anyway. But I was looking here at $413,000 loss over a 2-year period of time. And is that still about what's going on as we speak today?
That's where we are currently.
Because I'm beginning to think that if that's the kind of money we're losing, we may be able to upgrade our system pretty inexpensively. based on these kind of numbers. So that's something we might want to think about.
And we are watching our AR very closely right now. And once we reach about 90 days, we're submitting it to collections to be collected. Now, if that customer is still a customer, we are trying to collect that money without going to collections on it. But if they cease to be a customer of ours and they're at 90 days past due, we're submitting that to collections for
Yeah,
collections.
I understand. Like I said, that's a lot of money. We could upgrade a pretty nice system for that, I think, and then make money.
If we can get it collected.
Yeah, thanks, Joe Don.
I just wanted to clarify, I know in one part it said, well, the question is, can regular citizens bring a letter of credit and waive the deposit?
Yes.
Okay. I saw the other part about commercial industrial, and I thought
Yes,
it was only.
we do accept letter of credits from residential customers. And I would go one step further than that, is that if a customer is an existing customer of the city of Lawton, and they have a good pay history with the city of Lawton and want to establish another account, we're not going to require them to put up a deposit based on their credit history with their payment history with the city of Lawton.
Okay, assuming there's going to be a motion for approval, I'm going to have John offer one.
So council, the motion should be for approval with the exception of substituting the term of utility service for water service.
And that would include waive the reading of the ordinance and read the title only. Is there a motion?
That's the exact motion that I was thinking of making.
I could see that on your face. Is there a second?
Second.
And we do have a motion and a second. Discussion or debate? Please read the title.
An ordinance pertaining to utilities amending sections 22.1 to 115, Division 22.1.2, Article 22.1, Chapter 22, Lawton City Code 2015, relating to water fees and charges by amending the amount required for utility service deposit to a set amount of $150 and by adding language to accept letters of credit for commercial industrial customers, providing for severability and establishing an effective date.
Please vote. Have we lost somebody? We need one more vote. Oh, there it is. Okay, motion carries 7-0. Brings up item 14. Receive a presentation concerning the outside water rates and how they compare to inside water rates. Consider adopting the revised Council Policy 5.2 and approving a resolution lifting the moratorium on water sales outside of the city limits effective immediately. Joe Don.
Okay, this is going to be a tag team effort between myself and Cynthia here. I will take the rate portion of it, and Cynthia will handle the policy part of it. Now, one of the questions that we had at the beginning of this process, and maybe even the question that spurred the process on in itself, was, are we charging our outside rate customers the same as we are charging our inside rate customers? Now, the one thing that's going to make a lot of difference is that our outside customers do not get some of the same services that our inside customers get. Our outside customers do not necessarily get sewer services. They don't get garbage services. They don't get a lot of those. So those are off of the bill. We take those off that minimum bill. But if we look at just the water services, our inside rates reflect a water base fee of $23, like I said earlier, which includes the first 2,000 gallons. Every 2,000 gallons, every 1,000 gallons after that is charged at $4.65. Every customer gets a $8.05 reverb fee, every customer gets an $8.65 Waurika fee. Now, our inside customers do not get the surcharge listed there for Waurika accessibility. Now, our outside residential customers are there's two different kinds. There are the ones that we actually read the meters for, and then the ones that we don't read the meters for, or an association reads those meters. So the outside rate, which an association would read the water meter, not the city of Lawton, they're going to pay the $27.50 as a base rate, which does not include the first 2,000 gallons. Then from the get-go, they are paying $6.85 per thousand from 0 to 1, from 1 to 2, and so on. They do pay, the association pays the $8.05. The association pays $8.65 for the Waurika access fee, and the association pays $4.05 per meter attached to that to their association for the surcharge for the Waurika access. Now, for the meters that we read, again, $27.50 is a base rate, $6.85 per thousand from the get-go, from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. Every bill that we send out has the $8.05 capital improvement fee. Every bill that we send out has the $8.65 Waurika access fee. For our wholesale rates, they're a little bit different, even still, but they're still more than what we are charging our residential customers. Our wholesale rates, base fee of $27.50. They pay $5.33 per thousand gallons from starting at 0, so 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and so on. They pay the $8.05 capital improvement fee, the $8.65 Waurika access fee, and the $4.05 surcharge for every meter that is attached to their system. So that is the financial breakdown of a water meter bill, a water bill by itself across the spectrum. Any questions on that? Okay.
I have a question, but I'm going to wait until you present the different bills.
Okay.
I do have just a quick question. On the outside water people, do we have a lot of collections in those? That go to collections?
I can't answer that question right now. I don't know. I can find out. I'm going to venture to get, now if we are not reading the meter, I have no way of knowing, because they do not go through our billing system. They do not pay us. The association pays us for the water usage. And no, we have not had any collections that I'm aware of from an association. We've got a few others problems with associations, but not a collection issue. Or if we've had a collection issue, we've been able to resolve it without going to an outside collection agency.
Thank you.
I would have to look on the accounts that we read to see what our ratio is there for of those customers that go to collections. I would have to research that. I do not know.
I was just curious.
And I don't believe we've got any collection issues with our wholesale customers.
Question. The basic difference on an inside water rate and an outside water rate, not counting the add-ons like Waurika and et cetera, is the basic rate where if you're inside the city limits, you're getting a certain amount of free gallons, and that was what? How many gallons?
2,000.
Right. Whereas if it's outside, you actually start paying on gallon one still with the basic rate. So that's the basic price difference.
That's the basic one,
Yeah.
but the other difference would be the amount that it's charged. The base fee, or the water base fee for outside is $27.50 versus $23 for inside.
Right.
And it's $6.89 per thousand versus $4.65 per thousand.
I'm just curious. I don't want to start a long dissertation here. How did you come up with those amounts?
I don't know how that rate was come up with for the
Okay.
city of Lawton. What we did at the beginning of this budget year, we basically added 15% to our existing rate. But typically industry-wide, you see about the outside rates for any service as being about 1.5 times that of the inside rate service.
Okay. Thank you.
John, didn't we just have to shut off an association, though, for lack of payment?
We did not actually shut them off. We did notify the association members because they were paying their bill that the association was going to get cut off for non-payment. With the hopes that the members could put pressure on the association to get the bill paid. Now, the way that should work is that ought to be, the association shouldn't have a bill, except for the fees, basically, because they've got a master meter. The master meter should zero out with what all the sub-meters are. In this instance, it's not. So they've got a leak somewhere on that line that they have not addressed. And that's where I'm working with Rusty and some others to help them try to get that fixed, because that is a problem. We did shut off an association here recently because they did not, it wasn't a collection issue, it was a line breakage issue, and they weren't fixing the water line, and that was
We've just crossed the line to a maintenance issue, and the agenda item says
Okay.
water rates. So you guys can get together later and individually do that, and if you
I'll
don't get a
certainly explain that to you.
satisfactory answer, you can put it on the agenda. Let's stick with water rates.
Okay.
I have Jordan, very quickly for clarification for some of the constituents. The Rorica access, the difference, what's the difference between that and the surcharge for the Rorica access?
The what?
The Rorica access and the
surcharge?
surcharge.
Okay, the way it's been explained to me is the Rorica Access is a debt service that was put into place was a fee that was put in to pay the first note that we had on the Rorica Access. The surcharge that was put into place was to pay for the second note that we that we went out to do work on Rorica Dam and pumping plant and things like that.
I just wanted to, and Rusty can maybe make sure that I'm not wrong here, because I'm getting old and sometimes I forget. But the question had been something about where did we come up with the difference between inside and outside rates? And I'm pretty sure that that went back to a lawsuit that was in the 1990s. And the part of the judgment was that we were only allowed to charge a certain percent more because of the added cost of providing that service as far as lines or whatever. But I think that was, and it was actually in the judgment.
And I think that is that's the difference that we see between the outside rate and the wholesale rate. My understanding is that lawsuit dealt with the wholesale customers, not the associations and those customers.
There was two lawsuits. The last lawsuit that we dealt with on that situation, we were at 150% of what our inside rate was. They established from that day forward we could not charge, it was dollar per dollar. So each time we raise our bill $1, we can only raise theirs $1. So over time, that percentage comes down. And so it started at 150%, but it is a target that's moving down.
I think you're ready to move on.
Okay. All right, and these figures are just basically a recap of what a bill would look like with 3,000 gallons of usage between a inside the city limit bill, outside the city limit bill, and the outside wholesale customer bill. So the outside bill is what we would charge. If you look on the preceding slide, it would be the one without submeters. And I think that's the way we got that fixed up, isn't it, Cindy? Okay. And then the one to the far left is what we would charge to our wholesale customers.
Of course, to draw an apples and apples comparison, we removed the sewer and garbage from
Sure.
the inside bill, so it would correlate.
Okay, so here's my question. It appears the one in the middle is to a customer of an association or an individual outside water sales customer. But if there's a master meter, is the association or the wholesale customer required to certify the number of meters on their system, because we bill them in totality based upon the number of meters, but they're adding meters. So how do we know that we're collecting $27.50 per tap?
Well, if we're reading the meter, we've got the meter, we're reading it, we've got it. Now, the way this is structured, this middle one is, there's not an easy way to say this, but we have not certified meters on associations in the past the way we should have. Now this process has brought that to our attention, and we are certifying now moving forward.
And you're going to bring a plan forward for this to be put in place so we don't slip off like we apparently are now.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now my next question, that's good, thank you. My next question is, each individual meter of an association, are they paying $8.65 for the Waurika water just like every meter inside the city limits?
They are not, on this scenario, only the association pays the $8.65.
Where did that come from? What?
The sub-meters pay the
Cindy, go to
405.
the mic.
So on the sub-meters, they're calculating the $8.65 per meter for a sub-meter account. The base fee is not per sub-meter account is what they're charging right now.
The $27.50 base fee. You're telling me that what's presented here is the main meter?
Yes. And then they would add on, though, for the $8.65 per sub-meter.
Okay, so what started all this was it appeared that some individuals outside of the city limits on association type or wholesale type were actually paying less than citizens inside for water. And I'm a little confused if your examples here are, if I have a house outside the city limits, is this an example of what I'm charged, or is this an example of what my association is charged?
That's just an example of a house, a single-family house, not an association.
Is an association considered a wholesale customer?
No.
Okay.
Wholesale customers are going to be the water districts and the towns.
So if it's done properly on an association, they would get a $865 charge for the master and one for each individual meter that they run off of that master.
Yes, they should.
If it's done properly. Okay.
Okay, now let's back up to base rate. Are they gonna get charged $27.50 for their master meter and $27.50 for every meter?
They are not currently getting charged that. It's just the master meter. If they have a master meter, it's only the $27.50.
Now, what you're talking about is a recommendation that we would have moving forward.
You're gonna bring back a
But we
recommendation
would bring
of
back a
squaring that up?
recommendation for that and a policy for that. That is not addressed in this presentation, and we left it off specifically to deal with just the moratorium.
Okay, so what you're making a presentation of is not solutions. What you're making a presentation of is what exists. You're gonna bring back some solutions later, but there's a request to lift the moratorium, and you're explaining where we are today, but we're moving forward.
Right.
Did I get that right?
Yes.
This is just
Okay.
showing the different rates, that
Mhm.
the outside customers and the wholesale customers are being charged more than the inside.
Right. Any further questions?
Yeah, just real quickly, for clarification, so we're lifting the moratorium for individual residents that want water as far as the lifting of the moratorium, but we will deal with the issues with the association as we move forward, correctly?
Yes. Yeah, fees will be brought back at a later date.
For associations?
Yes.
Okay.
And a policy to go along with those.
The recommendation is to adopt the revised Council Policy 5-2 and approve a resolution lifting the moratorium on water sales outside the city limits. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to revise the policy, and I make a motion to approve the resolution.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Discussion or debate? Please vote. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Items number 15. Consider approving the creation of a new council committee entitled the Process Oversight Committee, discuss available resources, and approving permanent staff support to this committee, and make any floor amendments to enabling ordinance that council deems appropriate. John?
Mayor and council, the draft ordinance is in your packet, but what this committee would do, it would have 4 members, and then either the mayor or the mayor pro tem would chair this committee. They would be a non-voting member, so there would only be 3 voting members, and they will meet once monthly. They will discuss different processes and systems within the municipal government and make recommendations on how to improve those processes and systems. All meetings of this committee will comply with the Open Meetings Act, and that's all I have, subject to any questions.
Are there any questions? This
Mayor?
is basically an extension of the ad hoc committee that exists. Yes, sir.
I really like this idea. I'd like to serve on this committee, but I think we should add words like CIP, efficiency, other financial issues, so we're not locked into one thing, but we can broaden out and look at a lot of different things.
Yeah. Okay, so actually, the next agenda item is to discuss if the council wants to do that, but it would be a separate committee that would be focused on budget efficiency, and if you like CIP, I think that's a good idea, but this one is more on processes. This would be the committee that goes to Oklahoma City, that investigates how they do their split fire rating and things like that. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, it does, thanks.
Okay.
And I was remiss not to mention this earlier, but this committee also does provide our citizens a forum to report inefficient government practices and negative experiences that they've experienced.
Do what? No. Now, council, I do plan to just appoint the council members at the next meeting that are already on the ad hoc committee and do away with the ad hoc committee as soon as this goes into effect in 30 days. So I will be appointing Councilman Gill to take former Councilman Burke's position. Are there any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve.
Motion for approval. Is there a second? And we have a second. Discussion or debate? Please vote. Oh, we need to read the title.
An ordinance pertaining to administration, creating section 2-3-16-395, Division 2-3-16, Article 2-3, Chapter 2 of Lawton City Code 2015, establishing a committee to be titled the Processes Oversight Committee to assist municipal departments in establishing efficient processes and procedures for the purpose of advising and supporting those departments, creating more accountability between this government and its citizens, providing for severability, and establishing an effective date.
Please vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item number 16, discuss whether council desires to have a budget committee created and take action as deemed appropriate. This would be the same type of committee by ordinance, likely have at least some different people, and the idea is to put the people on it that's their strength. Some people's strength is budget and numbers and efficiency, and Mr. Fortenbaugh brings up CIP. I think that's a great idea. But before we spent the staff time doing that, we wanted to make sure the council was in agreement, or if the council had questions or changes such as Mr. Fortenbaugh. So the floor is open for discussion concerning that. Are you okay with it?
Would this committee be making decisions or bringing back
So
information?
neither one of
for
these
vote?
decisions neither one of these committees make decisions. They bring recommendations back. They do have the authority to direct staff to prepare policy to bring back to the council. Okay, so, and the reason for that, that's a good point. The reason for that is we're limited to 1 hour staff time when we want a policy changed. And some of these policies take more than an hour worth of legal staff time to change the policy. So because there's 4 people on the committee, they would have the authority to direct more than 1 hour of time. Does that make sense? But the decisions would be made by the council, and, as I said, some people don't want to look into the budget as deep as others. So it would be an opportunity for those that are into that sort of thing to spend more time doing it without requiring 5 people to be here, which is the system we have now. If there are no further questions, I'm sorry.
Mayor, there's been some internal discussions among staff. How would this affect the budget workshops that we normally have every year?
Well, we may have to work our way through that. I still think we'd have budget workshop. Budget workshops have very much been a 20,000-foot view and have not been involved in details. And this committee is very much about wanting to dig in deeper for details. So it may be a process of working it out, but I'm pretty sure 9 smart people can figure that out. So we need a motion to
Does this
direct
item
staff.
require a motion or just direction?
We need a motion to direct staff to.
I'd make a motion to direct staff to bring back an ordinance or whatever's needed to make this committee a permanent entity.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion or debate? Please vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item number 17, consider the conceptual plans to modify the median on Northwest Cache Road for a hooked left turn median cut to allow direct access for the westbound traffic to Oki Express Car Wash located at 3408 Northwest Cash Road. Cameron?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Cameron Good with Planning Department. Conceptual plans have been submitted to modify the median in Northwest Cash Road right in front of the Oki Express Car Wash at 3408 Northwest Cash Road. There's two reasons that we brought this to you. The code states that the number of openings in this half-mile section is limited to 4, and the median opening turn bay is supposed to be 200 feet. The proposed is only 100 feet, and there is already 4 median cuts in this. So both of these code requirements would need to be waived by council before construction plans would be able to be submitted and reviewed for the actual construction of this.
Council, do you have any questions?
There is a visual aid if you would like to see. This is where the median is, just west of 34th Street on Cash Road. There is another median turning northbound that is limiting the space to only 100 feet taper and does not meet code.
The City Planning Commission took a look at this, and what was their recommendation?
Yes, sir. The City Planning Commission met and discussed this on December 15th. Their recommendation was to deny this and
Okay,
to
thank
stick
you.
with city code.
Cameron, who would pay for this?
This is for the contractor, the business owner would be paying for this, not the city.
Okay.
I looked at this, and it's going to make that area extremely busy. Probably create a lot more traffic problems than if they just go down and make the turn and come back and go in. Did not look to me like a very good situation.
I agree. I was very concerned about crossing over 3 lanes already. There is so busy in that area. I know that we're having progress with businesses there, but I do not think this is a good idea.
Mr. Warren?
I got a couple things on this. I think, for years, I've been totally and completely against curb cuts. I mean, and this is a median cut, which is actually worse than a curb cut. The problem is, there's already a problem there. And this is probably not the right place but maybe we need to get staff to look at changing our ordinances and stuff, because what's already happening is the same thing that happens at the coffee businesses and the other car washes. It's happened to me 3 times. I've tried to go eastbound down Cash Road, and traffic is backed up into Cash Road trying to get into that car wash because there's such a short distance between the inlet and the street. I mean, people try to turn down that street and then turn in, and the stacking, there's not enough room to stack, and so people just stack out onto Cash Road, and that's not acceptable. So I think not only would I recommend that we deny this, but I would hope that we could get staff to look at changing the required depth of an entrance or exit to the side street. I don't know how to say that. If it maybe they can holler at me and I can draw a picture or something. But we have to have more room. If you look at Starbucks on Cash Road, it's the same problem. There's not enough room for cars to stack to get in there, and so they back out onto Cash Road, and we can't have that.
The queuing spaces.
And if we allow this curb cut, then we're going to have the same issue on eastbound Cash Road also. So we're going to have east and west blocked off where no traffic can move east and west down Cash Road.
Mayor, Council, I move to deny this modification.
We have a motion for denial. Is there a
Second.
second? We have a
Second.
second. Discussion or debate? Please vote. To deny. Motion is to deny. I need 2 more votes. Oh, you hit the, okay, you're voting yes to deny, so you hit the plus.
It's confusing.
I still need a vote. Okay, we are 7-0 to deny.
That was worded back.
The motion to deny carries.
I didn't know.
Okay, item number 18.
Yeah, 18.
Consider approving a memorandum of understanding between the City of Lawton, the Lawton Police Department, and the Office of the District Attorney for the 5th District of Oklahoma, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign and execute the memorandum of understanding. And we have John Ratliff.
Yes, sir. Mayor and council, this agenda item is a culmination of about 14 months worth of discussion between myself, the city manager, Chief Smith, and the district attorney regarding civil asset forfeitures and how those forfeitures would be distributed. Currently, we have an MOA that's been in place since 2016, and we receive 100% of those proceeds as it stands right now. However, that policy was under the prior district attorney, and the new district attorney sees things a little differently. We've gone back and forth over what we all think is the right division of those assets are. But ultimately, what we agreed to was we agreed to a 50-50 split of all cash proceeds that are generated by LPD when they execute these search warrants and these arrests for cash or any other valuable property they may seize, such as cars, and a kind of a cost-sharing type arrangement on vehicles that are seized. I think you should hear from Chief Smith as well. He certainly has some thoughts about this agreement, but that's kind of the overview of what the discussion has been.
Can I ask a quick question before Chief Smith?
Yes.
My only question would be, you just discussed the division of forfeited property captured, for lack of a better word, by LPD. Is the same agreement in place for any seized property captured by the county?
I don't believe that.
And that was one of our questions also, and the answer is we don't know. But one of the points that he raised in a memo to us that the Comanche County District Attorney's Office is the only one that was not receiving any type of funds from asset forfeitures. So to answer that question, I do not know.
So you want to go ahead and...
Yes, sir. And John kind of covered it pretty well, that in the past we have been getting 100% of the funding, and the district attorney was wanting a different split, and we have gone back and forth and trying to work things out, and we have settled on a 50-50 split at this particular time. And I think it's something that will work out for both parties.
So I keep hearing that we went from 100 to 50, and I heard that the district attorney was the only one not receiving a split. I didn't hear any comparisons to what other cities are splitting with their district attorneys, and it seems to me that that's quite a big difference from 0 to 50%.
Yes, sir, it is.
And it seems to me like everybody's walking on eggshells talking about it, and I don't really understand that.
Mayor, and John and Chief and Dwayne, who unfortunately has become ill, is not here to talk about that, have had, as John talked about, many, many discussions about what is an equitable distribution. When our forces, our service members, our police department is doing the majority and the bulk of the work. Now, I cannot speak to the district attorney's workload or what he does as far as prosecuting, but these guys are the ones out there executing the warrants and picking, all these properties up, whether they be seizure for personal property or vehicles, and it could even be, and John and I had this conversation the other day, it could even be real property like homes. So, depending on where you're at in the situation, it may seem equitable, but from my perspective, our folks are doing the work, and it doesn't seem as fair as I think it could be. That's
Was
my
there any
personal opinion.
comparisons to other counties, and what is, what are we measuring this equitable arrangement? Excuse me, I might have used wrong with this. I think I've heard that word used, but how are we comparing this? How are we deciding it?
Mayor, according to the DA, there is no really good basis of comparison because, his assertion, and in this letter that Chief mentioned that he sent to us, was that his office hasn't received any civil asset forfeiture funds for over a 10-year period. And in his letter, he cites the state auditor as being the person who told him that information. So I think what he's attempting to do here, and part of this is speculation on my part, but I think he's trying to recoup some of that lost money that they didn't receive over that period of time. Now, I think all of us here in the Lawton City government agree that he does have some cost. There is some time and effort and expense that goes into filing these forfeitures on our behalf. So his office would be entitled to some portion. But I think the big issue here and the bottom line is he's not required to file any civil forfeitures on behalf of LPD. So if we go back and say, hey, we don't agree to this percentage, we run the risk of having that happen. So that is ultimately why I am supporting this agreement.
Mr. Gill.
I'd like to ask Chief a question. You don't have to answer this, but I'm going to ask it.
Okay.
Are you happy with this arrangement? I said you didn't have to answer, and I think you did. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Warren.
I'm not going to make a motion yet, but I think maybe there's a better way to do this possibly, but it's going to require that it be tabled until another time. I don't have a date certain, but it would definitely be after a decision's made on the last item on today's agenda, because I think there might be a possibility of using those funds in an effort. We all want to use it in an effort to support law enforcement. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that all of it has to be used to support the police or the sheriff's department. Some of that could be used possibly in preventing recidivism of possible mental or substance abuse issues. I mean, it's kind of once we get past item 21, maybe it'll make a little more sense.
Okay, so maybe we can just continue. Maybe we could just continue this item until we get item 21.
And I'd like to do that, and then we can come back to it and maybe talk about something else.
And you were saying item number 21, but I was actually thinking the staff report.
Okay, after the staff report.
Okay, so we'll continue this item. This item is continued until after the staff report. Okay, we move on to item number 19.
I struck that one.
discuss demolition of the old police station located at number 10 Southwest 4th Street, and provide staff with direction on what type of lot surface council desires upon demolition of said facility. Joe Painter.
Mayor and council. So we have the old police station we're getting ready to demolish, and we have some options we wanted to run by you on. Typically, we would probably just, it's a massive structure, and we would just knock it down 4 foot below grade, remove the rubble, but then backfill the structure, knock holes in the floor so it doesn't hold water. But there'd be a structure underneath the ground, and then we'd use the site as a parking lot or a park, and that'd be appropriate. Or we can go to the expense of excavating the whole structure and removing every last drop of concrete and then taking it back to virgin ground. One option is probably, these are just ballpark, or, you know, just to do the rough demos, about $200,000. To do a complete removal of every last item on there is probably $400,000, $500,000. Right, so I don't think we need to move every last thing on there, but we just wanted to make sure that you guys knew you had an option there, and we were clear on which way we were proceeding.
Mr. Gill.
Why is the reason that all of a sudden we need to demo this building?
It's just always been scheduled to demo since they moved out. That was part of the plan before me.
It was originally part of one of the first CIPs. I believe it was the 2015 CIP, where the Public Safety Center was being discussed about being built, and the accompanying language said that the OPD building would be demolished. One of the reasons that I wanted this to be presented to you guys is because I didn't want us to run into future councils 40 years from now or whatever it is. When we're going to build a building, we run into the tanker issue that we ran into when we built the Public Safety Center. Joe is exactly correct. Standard practice is you knock it down 4 feet or so below grade, you fill it in, and you use it for some sort of place like a parking lot. But if you wanted to, in the future, build a structure on it, whoever in the future is going to build there is going to have to go and demo all that material that's left underground to build some virgin structure, if that's what you choose to do. So it's just to inform the council and future councils that this is the action that we took, and if you're going to build there, you need to go look and make your due diligence.
Are you through?
For this minute.
Okay, all right, Mr. Harrison.
Are there any environmental concerns we have with this building?
We already had the asbestos abated.
Okay, and so really it's not useful for anything else at this point in time, right?
I don't believe so.
Thank you.
So is the asbestos a problem?
What's that?
Is the asbestos a problem, or is it contained?
It's been abated, yeah. There was some asbestos in there. It's been removed.
Say again?
It's been abated. It's been removed. and
Oh, okay.
remediated.
So it's not there?
No.
So there's not an environmental reason at all? Okay.
Yep.
This property is owned by the city, and so if somebody else would want to do something with it, then we would have to sell it as adverse to if the city decided to do something with it. And from what I understand, we're limiting the ability to do certain things with this property by just doing that 4 foot.
Not 100%, no. I mean, there's things you could do with it. It's just that if somebody wanted to put in a below-grade basement structure, they'd probably have to take out that structure's there. If they built an at-grade pier.
You're talking about building a building on it.
Right.
But a parking lot,
Yeah,
a
you can build
park.
on the surface of it and drill, punch through that.
So as our property, we do the 4 foot excavation, then we're going to only be able to use it as a park or a
No,
parking
we
lot
could
or
build it. We
something.
could build a building on top.
But then we would have to come back and then pay the rest of the money to.
Not necessarily, only if you wanted to excavate and put in a basement structure down there where there's a structure down there. If you didn't have any kind of basement structure.
So a building can be.
Yeah, you can put
back
piers
on.
through there,
Okay,
push them
thank you.
through there.
Mr. Warren?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. More than likely, we could build a building on it. We could put a park there. We could build a parking lot. Might not be able to build a multi-story building without excavating, but I think the important thing to remember is it's relatively going to cost the same amount to excavate it later than it would to excavate it now. So currently, I know there's been a lot of talk of making it into a parking lot so that we'll be able to use it for the new park and for the farmer's market. If we were to do that, there's no extra, no multiples of costs to excavate it later to do some underground basement building or whatever. So in my way looking, I think we were better off to just do the cheaper version right now, make it into a parking lot, don't concrete it, but asphalt it. And then if somebody wants to do something later on, but good asphalt though, not.
We do not have in the budget to make it a parking lot right now.
But I mean, in the future idea, we can make it a place to mow right now.
Yes.
Well,
Mr. Gill.
We did run
I
into
would-
this same situation.
Mr.
Oh, I'm
Gill
sorry,
has
I'm
the
sorry.
floor.
I would like to ask the council for their indulgence in the fact that I think I've only been here just a short time, and I'd like to really look into this, tearing this building down. I'm never just one to jump up and do something. I know it's been planned for a long time, but it's been there a long time, so there's no critical mass that we've got to go demo that building. And we're sitting here today, we're talking about a transit center. I'm looking at item 21 that's talking about some sort of a incarceration type, jail type system possibly with the county. And we have this building sitting down there, and I think I'd like to ask for maybe just a couple of more weeks, if the council would indulge me, and let's do a little bit more research. I mean, there's not a hurry. Thank you.
Yeah, I
Would
think
you, are you making a motion
I
to
am
table
making a
this for
motion.
2 weeks?
I am, yes.
That
I
your
make a-
motion is to table?
I make a motion, we table
to
this
the
for-
next council meeting?
That'd be great, till the next
Okay.
council meeting.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
And we do have a second, a motion and a second to table to the next council meeting?
I have a
Just-
couple of comments
Yes.
when you're ready.
I'm done.
Yeah, I was talking to the mayor. We ran into a situation where, at the public safety, where stuff was buried underneath it, and when we were.
Little different, but
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
there was stuff buried there, correct?
there were
Tankers
tanker
or-
cars buried.
Yeah, there was a bunch of stuff buried there. So the cost, that actually added costs, I think, to the building, our public safety building, when we
Right, they were
ran
using
into
them
that
as
issue.
fuel, like diesel storage tanks
Right.
underground. We had to.
Right, okay. The second thing I wanted to kind of just bring up was that police station, from what I understood, had some bad sewer problems or something. I had talked to some police officers at one point, and they said that there was raw sewage on the floor in there, and they were.
It is a jail, so the jailers.
Well, I think that-
it has a
I think that-
drainage problem in the back, where their Sally Port in the back, where they brought prisoners into the jail and took them up to
Well,
the top
I know
floor.
that I spoke to several police officers that were talking to me about
It
the
has
fact
a-
that they were actually working in raw sewage.
It
in-
has a
in-
sump pump that has to be working, or if during heavy rain, it does fill up with water.
Right. The sump pump, the sewer fills up full of water.
It's
I mean,
a-
it sounds like a pretty serious problem to me to be working in sewage, and I just want to make sure that that was kind of brought up in that building. And I didn't know if the honorable councilman of Ward 4 knew that some of the background of that building was that they had thought that there was some issues that would be irreparable because of the sewage issues. But anyways, I just wanted to kind of throw that information out there.
Mr. Gill?
Well, I was, and I think we do have problems, but I think they're minor problems, possibly compared to if you're looking at 200,000 and another 500,000 to do certain things to that building. If we can take that building, if we do decide we're going to use it for something else, if we decide and look at item 21 and we decide to do this, that might be a good location for that. Then we could spend money to fix those sewage problems. They're not insurmountable at all. Anything else, we can put a lift station, lots of things in there to take care of that. But then if we decide to do, say, transfer station or something of that nature, or anything, we can always fill that in and then build on top of that too. So there's just a lot of money there to be spent one way or the other. We already own the building, it's already there. So I'm just asking for in my motion a couple of weeks so we can think about it, maybe look at some alternatives, maybe get some prices from our staff on what things would cost.
Ms. Hankins?
Just two things. Did the building have a fire here a while back, a small fire in the building?
Yes, ma'am, it did. It had a fire after it moved out in the very basement. And it's-
Okay.
Yes, yes, where the men's locker room's at.
And then, of course, the other thing, we'd certainly have to look at how much it would cost, and that's pretty obvious statement, but to revamp it or to redo it for use.
Yes, and two,
Was the building wasn't repaired after the fire?
no, sir, we'd already moved out. We'd already moved out. And to Councilman Hampton's statement, yes, there was sewage problems coming from the jail that sometimes the inmates would get mad and it would come.
And so
onto
you
the
just
desk.
went 2 weeks to go over there and look at it yourself? Okay, Mr. Harris?
And George, I want to say I agree with you in many ways, but I'd still like to make a substitute motion that we just go ahead and put this on the schedule for the 4-foot below-grade demolition.
Okay, we do
can I
have a
interject that-
substitute motion on the floor that will be dealt with before the main motion. Is there a second? Please repeat your substitute motion.
That we go ahead and demolish the building to the 4-foot level, that the less expensive level.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it, just to see what happens.
Okay, so we have a substitute motion and a second. By rule, we deal with the substitute motion first. Now, I have a question. What's the process? Does that mean we go out for bids?
We're going to open bids on the 25th. And opening bids doesn't mean we have to do it, but we'll have the price for the demo. And to actually do the demo, we'd have to bring a contract back to council for council to approve those low bidder and approve the contract and then approve to actually tear it down.
Okay, and so Mr. Gill would still have time to do his
would.
inspection and ask questions?
He would.
You understand?
I do.
Okay, so the substitute motion is on the floor and it has been seconded. Is there other discussion or debate? Please vote. And the motion passes 6-1. Item number 21, discuss inmate housing concerns in both the city and county and direct staff to write an RFP for community correction solutions or regional jail corrections solutions for the city and county. Randy.
Okay, this is kind of a long and drawn-out deal that I'll try to make as concise as I can. Since we originally started talking about building the facility that we've got now, we began talking about whether or not we should or shouldn't create a jail trust. I think there's never been a vote, but I think there's kind of a consensus that we need to do that for legal reasons, liability reasons, and multiple reasons. But I got to thinking, after hearing about some issues that the county was having with their jail population, and that they had asked us about could we house possibly some of their overflow in our pod area that's not being used. I got to thinking, well, maybe we don't want to do this multiple times. Maybe we need to look at a solution that could be a solution for the city and the county, or the city and the region, a regional type facility. This is not a Lawton problem, and it's not a county problem. This is a community problem. It's an all-encompassing law enforcement, judicial, and corrections issue. Currently, basically people get arrested and they go sit over there in the county jail until something happens with their issue. And that's part of the problem is a lot of the people, and I don't know the numbers, but there's a majority, I think, well, not a majority, there's a large group of people that are over there that keeping them in jail is not bettering the situation. They possibly have some mental health issues, they have some substance abuse issues maybe. They're not dangerous to the community. A lot of times maybe they're dangerous to themselves. But there's an ever-growing number of those people. And it makes it difficult because we group everybody into one group right now. You're going to be there until we get you a sentence, and then you're going to be there until we have, we can hold you for the amount of time that, and by we, I just mean society. The problems that these individuals experience and problems that these individuals cause to the society around them are not, a lot of times, not solved by incarceration. In fact, many times those individuals with substance abuse problems and mental health issues, the situation becomes worse because they are incarcerated. And the problems become magnified for the individual and for the community in the scope of the actual problem and in the number of issues that the society has with those individuals. The answer, and the county is working on this a little bit, is pre and post trial and pre and post sentencing diversion programs. At some point, we need to figure out a way to extract people with mental health and substance abuse problems out of that flow of prisoners, and only end up incarcerating the individuals that are dangerous to society or that need to actually pay a price for their crime. Diversion programs, I think, have to be included if we want to have a successful community corrections management program, because that's really what it is. It's not a matter of just arresting people and throwing them in jail. It's a matter of figuring out why we are having those issues. A lot of those individuals, we have a lot of recidivism. We see those people over and over again because we're not treating the cause of the issue. What I'm really asking for, we're not going to approve anything or do anything. What I'd like to do is go out for an RFP or an RIP, a request for information or a request for proposals. There are companies out there that do a complete management program. There are companies that do simply the mental health / substance abuse intervention to help draw those people out of the flow of prisoners. I know that the district attorney is interested in being involved in that, but he also wants assurances that there's going to be adequate supervision. So it's not really a case of just talking to somebody in the office one day and saying, you think you're going to be okay if we let you go? We're going to have some kind of serious program in place and a place where we can keep an eye on and make sure, whether it's daily supervision, ankle supervision, or what, that we can do. And so that's really what this is to put out an RFP to these different companies and say, here's our situation. We have multiple facilities possibly, city, county, other municipalities, other counties. What could you provide for us?
An all-encompassing approach, and that makes it very tough to make the motion. But I think your explanation is understood by staff. Is it, staff?
Yes.
Would anybody like to second that motion?
I would second
We do have a motion and a second. If you need it explained again, I'll ask Mr. Warren to do that, but it will take a while. Is there discussion or debate?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Warren, I'm assuming that this sort of wraps up what we looked at number 18. You were hoping to use some of that money to, can you explain?
Yeah, just real quick, that was why I said I wanted to continue that maybe because I think the overall mission with our staff and with the district attorney's office. I mean, I don't think that his issue is he wants a check. I think the issue is we need to look at using that money to solve the problem. And that gives us another pot of money that we can use.
That makes a lot of sense.
I
Chief.
will make the motion that, whatever it was Randy said.
Second, or discussion or debate. Chief, we're going to let you talk even though it's not a debate.
Well, I was coming up for the next item, just trying to get ready.
Okay. Okay, well,
but I
we
can't
appreciate,
talk
you have
about it.
anything you want to say on this?
Councilman Warren was correct. Housing prisoners is something that all communities have been wrestling with. And we have been trying to look at how the best way that we could house our prisoners. And even when we first started building the public safety facility, we had talked with the county about if we could just build one large facility to house all our prisoners. And so if coming in agreement and working on an authority agency that can consolidate the misdemeanors and the felony prisoners, I think that will be best for our community.
Okay, thank you. Now, I have a question on the motion because at one time you mentioned to me, but I don't think I heard you mention it today, the potential of a regional jail trust to use jail vacancy around Southwest Oklahoma and working together on a broader range. Does your motion include the possibility of checking into that?
Yes, it did, because I think that these entities that do this, what they could do if we looked at a regional is they could use possibly a facility in a different county to do maybe some of the drug and alcohol supervision, because one of the first things that you want to do with an individual that's got a drug problem for sure is you want to move them out of that environment that they're in. They cannot be in the environment that they were in when they got into that problem. They need to be in a new area, whether that's a work program or what, but that other facility would give them a place to spend the night or whatever they needed to do.
John.
Mr. Warren, could, in the agenda item, I think it says an RFP, but could this also include discussing this issue with other agencies and the potential of entering into an intergovernmental support agreement?
And I think that's important because just in the little bit of discussion that I've had with the county, they haven't agreed to do anything. And I think part of that is because we don't know, again, I'm back to that thing of not knowing what we don't know. Until we have a company that can show us what they can do, we don't really have anything to present to the Comanche County elected officials or to any other outside agencies. It becomes cheaper the larger it gets, I feel like. Because depending on the number of facilities you have and the number of beds that you're actually using, a trust that had the ability to use all those facilities could even lease some of those beds to, say, the Marshals Service or ICE or to just different entities. So we really need to find out what they're willing to do, so we provide them with a request for just what would they do for us, what would they do for us in the county, and what would they do for a region.
Is this, may I ask a question? So this is specifically for the extra units that we have in our jail? Is that is where you're talking about housing?
That could be one possibility, because and the numbers are not going to be exact, but right now probably the county has 50 prisoners in Tillman County that they're housing in Tillman County. We have probably 50 beds that are empty, 60 beds that are empty in those areas. But in a region, if you expanded it to a region, we may have 200 beds that are empty. if you looked at all the different surrounding counties that might want to be involved.
Yeah.
So we could make it cheaper by leasing those beds.
Yeah, and in the end, whether it's our facility or another facility, that trust is going to be the ones that's going to be over that facility.
Correct. The trust
with maybe some of our officers as well as other officers. Is that
The trust
I was
would-
looking at the cost on the city and the control the city would have.
The trust would, however it's created, would be the entity that runs any and all facilities that are under the trust.
Okay.
The city's responsibility would only really be in any agreements that the city would make in the future with the trust itself.
Okay, are we ready to vote? Mr. Harris?
Yeah, just one more thing, and I agree with Councilman Warren. I just wanted to throw a cautionary tale. I remember several years ago, Grady County built this giant regional jail, and then they did not get the beds filled like they thought they were, and they wound up, I think, having to float an extra bond just to pay for it because they weren't keeping it. It wasn't making money.
Let's vote. Need one more vote. Motion carries 7-0, and that's just going out for an RFP. I commend you for that. I know you put a lot of work into it, and I think it'd be great to get the city out of the jail business if we can do it in such a way. Now we move on to staff reports. No, we're doing that after staff reports, correct? We continued that to after staff reports. Staff reports, receive and discuss narcotics report from June 2022 to December 2022. Chief.
Well, good afternoon again. And, okay. Is there anything I have to press? Well, while they're working on that, the reason why I'm up here is not to brag on myself, but to talk about the outstanding work that the men and women of the Lawton Police Department has done. They have done an outstanding job, and want to focus on the second half of last year. One of the things that we have seen in probably last year this time, there was an uptick in drug overdoses, especially fentanyl overdoses. So we wanted to try to take some corrective measures with that. So we worked very diligently, the detectives and the officers did, to try to combat this problem. But the good job that they did, the sad part of it is just the tip of the iceberg. So, but I just want to run through some of the numbers that they did this past 6 months. Oh, it works. And in just the past 6 months, it shows that some of the headlines that we've seen throughout the news that talked about our drug bust. And like I talked about before, is the last 6 months of 2022, they made several busts throughout the city. And compared to 2021 of last year, all of last year, they seized over $500,000 worth of meth, over $70,000 worth of cocaine, and a little over 800 fentanyl pills. In the last 6 months of 2022, they seized over $1.2 million worth of meth, over $750,000 worth of cocaine, and over 13,000 fentanyl pills. And he asked, why the certain spike in that? And like I said, the drug trade always changes. Every time we think we got a good lead on them, no, they change their tactics. So we have to change our tactics also. So we took a very different look at how we are trying to eradicate the problem. And one of the things that Councilman Warren, you was talking about with the seized funds, one of the things that we do utilize those funds for is for education and training. And we send our detectives out to certain schools, and a lot of times city manager talk about me about some of those schools are in Las Vegas, and some of those schools are in Florida, and some of them are in California. But that is kind of the hotbed for narcotics, so they have a lot of schools there. So we send our detectives to those locations to learn new tactics, learn new methods, and and they bring it here and utilize it, and that has paid off in dividends. And just in December, we worked with our state and federal agencies, Homeland Security, and Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics, and we seized almost 20 pounds of cocaine, 4 firearms from a local businessman. In just it was about 10 days. In about 10 days, our detectives, as you see on November the 26th, they seized 7 ounces of cocaine, over 800 fentanyl pills. On December the 24th, they seized over almost 4,500 pills of fentanyl. I'm sorry, my throat's getting cracked up. But anyway, they seized over almost 4,500 pills of fentanyl, $24,000 in cash, some handguns, and made 2 arrests. And one of the things is the guy they arrested said that he can go and buy those pills for about $1 a pill, and he can come back here and sell them between $15 and $20 a pill. So that's quite a bit of a market value that they can make. And also on December the 26th, they seized over 60 pounds of meth that have over $1 million of street value. City manager came by and took a look at it, and it was, you see it right here in your lower right corner. It was amazing that there was a manufacturer right here in the city that they were doing this, distributing it out to our community and elsewhere.
Can I jump in there for a second?
Yes.
It was can you go back one? It was a sight to behold, and I like to try to put things into context. So that picture on the far right bottom there, have you seen the large stew pots that you make large amounts of stew in? It's not a little, ice cream bowl size or a small plastic bowl. No, that's the large stew pot size cooking apparatus. And those round meth bundles there are far larger than you see in that picture. They're very big. And so our detectives and our special operations unit had to take those and put them into those plastic bags. So if you could see them pull one of those pie-shaped things out of that bucket there, you just can't understand unless you see it how big that is when they go to break that down and put them in those plastic bags. I was very impressed. Mayor, it's this big around and this thick. It's big. How much one of those weigh, Chief, that one part there on the right there?
I think probably about 10 pounds. And they sell by the ounce. So they're also, GEO is in the city limits, and they just recently have installed a new warden, and he is trying to do some reactive enforcement action. So they get people bringing in drugs or attempting to bring in drugs. Right now, they're having an issue with people flying drones over into the facility and dropping them off. So so they have stepped up their effort, and they have caught several people trying to bring contraband inside the prison facility. And this is just some of the seizures that we have got out at GEO with the help of their staff there. So, and with that, we posted those things on social media. We've been able to get a lot of traction, a lot of positive information that we put out there. People have been reaching out to us. And one of the things we don't want to share our tactics, but we want to share to our people that the detectives and our officers are doing a good job, and they are trying to keep the community safe and also our children safe. And this is one slide about our traffic unit, and I've talked about our traffic unit a couple months ago when I was up here about what a great job they have done this year. Unfortunately, we have had 8 fatals, but one of the fatals that I like to highlight, it was a pedestrian out on I-44 and got hit by a side mirror of a pickup truck, and the detectives, by using the side mirror of a pickup truck, was able to track down the driver, who went all the way down to Mexico, and then we was able to identify him, and we put a hold on him. So when he crossed back across the border in about 2 weeks, they were able to put a hold on him, and we brought him back, and he's been prosecuted for vehicular manslaughter. So this is just a highlight of the great work that our officers are doing each and every day, but particularly the last half of last year. Our narcotics unit, our detectives, our traffic unit is working hard and diligently each and every day trying to keep our community safe.
And I'd say that's very clear, and I appreciate this increase in suppression. And before we comment, let's just go ahead and appreciate our police officers that are working so hard to keep our city safe. Do we have questions for the chief? All right, much appreciation, sir. Please relay that round of applause to your officers.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. With that, we reconvene on item number 18, which is consider approving a memorandum of understanding between the City of Lawton, the Lawton Police Department, and the Office of the District Attorney for the 5th District of Oklahoma, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign and execute the memorandum of understanding. Now, I've got a few questions on this, and I'm wondering how much a year we're talking about that we seize. Got to be some kind of average. I heard 24,000 in this.
Yes, sir. That varies according on our seizures. Right now, we have is about $28,000 that is kind of holding for adjudication right now. But on the average, we have probably about between $20,000 and $30,000
Okay, and a year?
a year.
And do you seize cars and?
Yes, sir.
What other kind of things do you seize?
Well, right now we seize cars, drugs, money, and guns.
Okay, and the total would be 30,000 roughly? a year.
On the average.
Okay, all right. Now, Mr. Warren, you were wanting this continued till those items were discussed. So what did you have in mind?
What I would propose, and I don't know, I guess that we direct staff, namely our illustrious city attorney, to continue discussions with the district attorney's office and see if he would be willing to go ahead and go forward with the forfeitures, placing all those funds into an escrow account that we could then divide once we determine what we're going to do with the jail situation, and once we agree to a division number. Is that something you think that he would be open to at least discussing?
I can certainly broach that topic with him. In his memo to us in November of 2021, he said that his office would no longer file any forfeiture actions until a new MOU was signed. But I can... Maybe that's what the MOU could be, is that he go ahead and continue on with the forfeiture litigation, or however they do that, attach those funds, put them in an escrow account until a date certain, whatever, a year from now or 6 months, whatever y'all think is appropriate, and then revisit the division and whether we're going to use it for some of this or what we're going to do.
So in general, are you asking that the money not be divided up until we determine where we're going
Correct.
with a potential jail trust solution? Because the money, I assume, sits in our possession, and it just sits there, which is, it doesn't?
We use that money.
But you don't use it till he adjudicates the word.
Until he releases it to us, yes.
And so it just sits there.
But if it sits there, that's dollars that LPD isn't using.
Yeah, well, it's only 15,000 a year, so it's not the end of the world. And we're gonna hopefully have something decision here in the next several months.
Yeah,
right?
I would think that once we get that back from, and I really think there's probably only 2 or 3 companies, maybe 4, that might be interested in giving us some kind of RFP. We should be able to do that pretty quick and see what, whether or not they're going to be interested in it. Because originally, they kind of weren't interested at all. And now, at the last time I discussed it with them, there was a little bit of movement to, want to see what is available out there, because they can't continue on, and as a community, we can't continue on with what we've got.
Okay, John, do you want to say something?
I do. I just am not clear on the direction.
Okay, hold on just a minute. Will, what do you want to say?
I just want to make sure that we're clear, and I was listening to the councilman here saying about waiting until the jail issue is resolved. Are you referring to using the funds for the jail?
Well, and that's,
Because I don't think we can do that. All the narcotics seizure money goes back into the narcotics fund used by the narcotics officers to buy things.
That's true. There's
to have
very
to enforce
specific
narcotic laws.
Yes, there's very, like education,
Correct.
training, but
It can be broad, but it
Yeah.
also is very specific.
well, could
if that makes
it
sense.
also be used for
Diversion.
drug and alcohol diversion programs?
Probably.
yeah, I think
probably.
it can
So,
be.
I mean, it could be part of that solution. I don't know.
I think we should
Again,
look at it real
and
close, 'cause that could
I never thought I'd be in
be
that
real
situation where like the mayor said, it's only $20,000. What do we, but it's not like a vast amount of money, but I think we need to figure out what we're going to do as a group.
Right.
So since we obviously have some thought to do here, so my suggestion to you is that you make a motion to table this for 30 days or 2 weeks at the next meeting or the one after that, and you get with the chief and and the attorney and see if you can come up with something that
Well, I would make a motion that we table this until staff has had an opportunity to talk to the DA's office again, and that I've had a chance to talk to staff, because there is the possibility that we could use this money for diversion and/or I know there's been discussion about we could use some opioid money.
Okay, let's table to a date certain, 30 days.
30 days.
We have tabled to a date certain. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to table for 30 days. Discussion or debate?
Yes. John, this is probably more for you. In number 6 of this agreement, it states that if a court orders any of the following to be paid to the defendant or claimant from funds generated by seizures or forfeiture actions, the city and LPD will hold harmless the district attorney for any such attorney's fees, cost of litigation, or interest listed above, which sounds to me like we got all the risk, they want their share of the money.
No, it's a little confusing, but what that is specifically addressing is when forfeiture actions are not successful. So the claimant or the defendant prevents the assets from being forfeited. So in that instance, he's asking for us to provide fees or cover the cost, and that provision was in the prior agreement as well. So that's something that has historically been in these agreements.
So it all comes out of our pocket and none out of his pocket?
No. Well, in that particular instance, it does. We were talking about this earlier today, and Chief and Will, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that you guys couldn't recall an instance where we weren't successful. Is that correct? Yeah, so there's never been, as far as we're aware, there's never been an instance of that occurring.
Please vote. Motion carries 7-0. Is there a motion for adjournment?
Motion.
We have a motion for adjournment and a second. Please call the roll.
Fortenbaugh. Moran. Hankins. Harris. Chapman. Gill.
Gill.
Hampton.
Yes.